because you're worthy to be praised. Oh God, because you're worthy to be praised. Oh God, because you're worthy to be praised. Hallelujah, oh God. It is yours. Oh, it is yours. It is yours. All the glory and the honor, it is yours. It is yours. Adoration. Yes, Lord. Exaltation. It is yours. It is yours. No matter what I'm going through, it is yours. It is yours. No matter the circumstance, it is yours. It is yours. Come on, somebody say it is yours. It is yours. Come on, you gotta sing it like you mean it. It is yours. It is yours. It is yours. Now come on and worship him. Come on and open your mouth and worship him. Hallelujah. Song says, for your glory, I will do anything just to see you, to behold you as my King. For your glory, I will do anything just to see you, oh God, to behold you as my King. I want to be where you are. Gotta be where you are. Come on and help me sing it. Wanna be where you are. Gotta be where you are. Said I wanna be where you are. Said I gotta be where you are. Said I wanna be where you are. Oh, said I gotta be where you are. Said I wanna be where you are. Said I gotta be where. Come on, said I wanna be where you are, oh God. Said I gotta be where you are, yeah. For your glory, I will do anything just to see you. Hallelujah. To behold you as my King. Oh, your glory, I will do anything just to see you, to behold you as my King, 'cause we want to be where you are. Somebody ought to raise that on this morning. Be where you are. I want to be where you are. Said I gotta be. Hallelujah.
Somebody Give God praise right where you are. Would you bow with me? God, we thank you now for the power of your presence and all that has been displayed. God, I pray now that you would embody me, that they would not say Cason, but they would say the Christ. Turpentine my tongue, that they may speak truth to power and power to your people. Have thine own way in this place. And when you do it, we promise to give your name glory, honor, and praise. In Jesus' name, amen. While we yet remain standing, let us dive into our text. Let us stand for the reading of the word of God. The book of Joshua. Joshua 1, verses 1 through 3. I'm reading from the English Standard Version of the Bible. My Bible reads like this. After the death of Moses, the servant of the Lord said to Joshua, the son of Nun, Moses' assistant, Moses, my servant, is dead. Now therefore arise, go over this Jordan, you and all this people, into the land that I am giving to them, to the people of Israel. Every place, every place, every place, every place that the sole of your foot will tread upon, I have given to you, just as I promised to Moses. The grass wither, the flower fade, but the word of God shall last forever. While you take your seat, lean over to your neighbor and say, neighbor, it's time to go. 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 As we journey through this particular series of Walk in It, the Lord had dropped in my spirit last week to share with you this week that it is time to go. One of the most difficult things I've had to do was move. I hate moving. Got to pack up all your stuff. You don't recognize how much stuff you got. Y'all ain't gonna help me this morning until it's time to move. And I had to understand something, Elder Blackett, in the last time we moved, is that some of the stuff that I was moving, I wasn't using. In fact, y'all don't judge me, some stuff I never even unpacked from the last move. I still had stuff in boxes that I moved from my old house into my new house, that even though I had been living in my new house for almost 3 years, I never unpacked. But can I tell you the quagmire? When it was time to move from that house into my new house, I didn't want to get rid of the stuff that I never unpacked from the last time I moved. Okay, maybe that's not you. I find that sometimes when it's time to go, we become sentimental over stuff that we no longer use or need into the new place that we're going. And so it's difficult for us to let go because of the level of loyalty, my God, today, that we have to stuff. But God said, it's time to go. Deacon Johnson, that's where we find ourselves in the text at the top of Joshua 1. The Bible says that God is now speaking to Joshua. And God says what seems to be a very non-compassionate statement where he lets Joshua know that Moses is dead. This is not because God did not love Moses. Because if you just take a moment and flip back to Deuteronomy 34, you'll find that the only eulogy, the only committal ever created by the Creator is done for Moses when God takes Moses' body and puts it in a place where it is never found. The only funeral ever preached by God is done for Moses in 34 because of the love that God has for Moses. But even in the love that God has for Moses, sometimes when it's time to move, we have a level of commitment and dedication beyond our assignment. Text says that God tells Joshua, the son of Nun. Look at how Joshua is described in the text. The son of Nun and the assistant to Moses. God tells Joshua, Joshua, Moses, my servant, God help me today, is dead. I know you were his assistant, but he was my servant. I know you were the Robin to his Batman, but at the end of the day, he was under assignment from me. And as much, Joshua, as you were committed to your leader, God help me, I need you to be committed to God. Because if you can commit this much to your leader, when God shifts him, you'll miss your moment of moving up because of your loyalty to something that has died. God help me. Sometimes we missed our shift and stepping into new shoes because of our commitment to what was. But we do not serve a God of what was. We serve a God of who is. Bible says he is the God of who is and the one that is who is to come. And because of the loyalty and grief that Joshua has, God steps in and speaks directly to him to let him know that you cannot stay stuck in what was. Can I let you know, if you're going to step into these new shoes and walk in it, then the first thing you got to understand is that in order for me to get into my new shoes, I got to take off my old ones. I know that's not deep. I know somebody was looking for some profound prophetic word in the morning, but the reality is that you can't have two pairs of shoes on at the same time. And when the old shoes have expired, it's time for you to put on some new ones. Okay, all right, it's right here in the text. Joshua is still functioning in the mindset of an assistant when the leader is now dead. And because the leader is now dead, there is a godly plan of succession that the one that was behind him has now the opportunity, better yet the obligation, so that the ministry does not die, to step into place. All I'm saying to you is that when something has been exhausted, stop looking around for somebody else to step up. Dawn, you're the right person for the job. You've been sitting in the seat. You've been helping assist, and now everything that you've gauged from your predecessor is your obligation to step into. God gave me this before I ever knew you were going to show up. I promise you that. Moses has exhausted his time. And if we're going to go forward, somebody say forward. Because God only functions in forward progress. I know you miss what was. But what was is not what is. And ain't nothing wrong with missing what was. But you have to understand what was will never be again. What used to be will never be again. I don't care how you try to reconstruct it. I don't care how you try to recreate it. The reality is once this vapor is gone, it shall never return again. And so you do a discredit and a disservice to God when you expect God to recreate what was. I'll never forget when I first came to Bethany, they told me, oh, you're at Jake Manley's church. That's what they told me. And I said, I never met Dr. Jake Manley, but he was friends with my grandfather. You got some big shoes to fill. I said, those shoes are unfillable. Because I can never recreate what was. And so instead of me trying to fill shoes, because in order to fill shoes, you got to go back, you got to walk backwards into steps. But God ain't called us to go backwards. God called us to go forwards. See, I can look back to see where I came from, but I can never look back to see where I'm going. And some of us get so consumed in looking back from where we came from that we miss where God is trying to take us. You ought to tell somebody Moses is dead, but we still got to go on. Text says that after we recognize the past, we get empowered in the present. Moses, my servant, is dead. Now, get up. We've mourned. We've cried. But there's still work to do. And what I've found is that Moses dying has now endowed Joshua with a power and an authority to go and do what Moses had never done. It doesn't say that the same mantle from Moses, as much as Joshua was with Moses, stayed with Joshua, but the text goes on to say, Moses, my servant, is dead. Now therefore arise, go over this Jordan, you and all the people, into the land that I am giving to them, to the people of Israel. So we see two significant transitions. Number one, first transition is death. Death always births and brings life to something else. You cannot have the expectation of life without the experience of death. The crops that grow in the summer harvest and die for the crops that grow in the fall. And the crops that grow and blossom in the fall harvest and die. Elder Diggs taught me this kind of stuff, this horticulture. Often die for the crops in the winter. And the crops in the winter, after the winter season, they humble themselves and die for the crops in the spring. That if there was no death to crops in the winter, that there would be no life to flowers in the spring. So death is a transition so that life can be experienced in a new way. Y'all ain't gonna help me preach today. Listen, and so the first thing God tells them is that Moses is dead. He says, now, therefore, arise and go over the Jordan. So the second thing we see for transition, the first thing we see is death. The second transition for us to walk into what God has for us and it's time to move is that we see a Jordan. Jordan is always symbolic of tribulation that you have to cross in order to enter into promise. Oh, somebody missed their shout cue this morning. You cannot enter into promise without crossing over Jordan that is symbolic of trouble and transition. And because Jordan is present, it means I don't easily walk into my promise until I have conquered my problem. Okay, let me help you. If you never conquer your problem, then you take your problem into your promise, and now your problem has contaminated the promise. But when you conquer the problem, you can walk into an uncontaminated promise that's already awaiting you. What are you saying, Kason? That yes, you're on the border of a Jordan. Yes, you're dealing with grief. Yes, you're dealing with despair. Yes, you're dealing with anxiety because you've never been in this position before, and now you're at the chilly waters of the Jordan. All I'm telling you is you cannot go back to where you came from, because this Jordan is here to ensure you don't take the contaminations of the wilderness into the promise of the future that God has given you. What are you saying? Part of this problem ain't the devil. Part of this problem is God washing you so you don't mess up when he gives you what he's called you to. This is the perfect problem to fix me. Okay. You and the people go over this Jordan into the land, watch this, that I am giving to them. The promise is not to Joshua. I mean, he does get a book named after him. But what God is fulfilling has more to do with the corporate than it does with the individual. Touch yourself real quick and say this: self, it's not about me, but there's something greater. Come on, you got to say it with your chest. Ain't that what Kevin Hart said? You got to say it with your chest. There's something greater that's behind this. And I want to let you know that this ain't got nothing to do with Joshua as much as it has to do with blessing the people of God. So God will allow you to go through some stuff individually so that you can have the testimony to advance the people corporately, because it's some folk right now watching you struggle. It's some folk right now watching your attitude. It's some folk right now watching how you going through the grief, and now you're faced with a Jordan and they sitting back saying, what's he gonna do next? How he gonna act now? I bet you he won't. They're saying all of these things, and you gotta remember that greater is he that's within me than all of those people that are standing around watching me. And because he that has begun a good work in me will perform it, I ain't got no choice but to go forward. Watch this. Ricky, I like this. Chris, I really like this, because the tone of the text begins to shift. As God is telling Joshua, he says, go over this Jordan, you and all the people of Israel, for I am giving it to them. Giving. Let church say giving. Giving, which is in the process. It means in the process to give, which means it has not yet been given, but he's in the process of giving. It's in the process, which means it has not been done, but it is what he is doing. Help me. Somebody say the process. That in the process of your obedience to God, watch how the text shifts. Mr. Fred, it says, every place that the sole of your foot will tread upon, I have given. In verse 2, with instruction, it's process of giving. In verse 3, with obedience to what God has said, the process is complete. All right. In verse 2, God is working it out before you even cross the Jordan. So here's promise. Somebody say promise in the process. Church folk don't know when to shout. That even in the process, there is a level of promise. He says, when you are obedient to me, I'm going to be giving. And after your obedience, all you got to do is show up and it shall be given. God, y'all wish y'all making me work today. Listen, he says to Joshua, every place your foot shall touch once you've crossed this Jordan, it's already going to belong to you. All you got to do is get up and get across the Jordan. Somebody say, if I make it through this problem, I know there is a promise. There got to be a promise on the other side of this. All I got to do is make it through this. Anybody got to make it through this praise that the devil thought he had me, but if I can just make it through this. They tried to give me bad health, but if I can just make it through this. They scandalized my name, but if I could just make it through. I wish I had about 7 of y'all this morning that would give him a make it through this praise, because this did not come, this cannot come to kill me, because there is a promise on the other side of you ought to tell somebody, if I just make it through this, if I can just get through this, I know on the other side there is a promise awaiting me. I know the river looks rough. I know it looks cold. I know it looks murky. I know it looks dark. But what did God say? God says that every time you step closer, I'm going to give you even more of the land. Every time you kick off those old shoes, I promise you some new shoes are going to be waiting on you. Every time you trust me, I promise you I've got something in store for you. I know you're tired and sick and tired of being sick and tired. I know it seems like it ain't gonna get better, but it seems like it's growing worse. I know you've been crying and weary. I know you're scared and you're nervous, but baby, if you just get through this, the Bible says there is a promise waiting on me. That's a good place to grab your neighbor by the hand and squeeze that hand and tell him, neighbor, you're holding on to a miracle. I should have been dead, but I got through that. I should have been crazy, but I got through that. Should have lost my mind, but I got through that. And if the Lord brought me through all of that, then surely he'll get me through this. Tell your neighbor, one good time, it's time to go. You've been in this place long enough, and your mountains have been rough, but you ought to tell somebody the struggle is over. I'm going through the Jordan, leaving all the wilderness behind. I'm going through the Jordan, leaving legacies of past behind. I'm going through the Jordan because when I decide to go through this, I know God is going to meet me on the other side. Is there anybody in the building that can declare God will meet me on the other side? If you know God will meet you, you ought to lift those hands, throw your head back, and begin to tell the Lord, thank you in advance. Ain't put one foot in the water, but thank you in advance. Still got my grave clothes on me, but thank you in advance. Ain't been back to the doctor to get my test results, but thank you in advance. God, they ain't voted yet, but I dare you to thank him in advance, because the Bible says, and we know all things, somebody shout, all things work together for the good of them that love the Lord. If you love him, praise him. If you love him, give him glory. If you love him, tell him thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Yes, yes. Time to go. It's time to go. Can't stay here. Can't stay here. I can't stay here. When I say I can't stay here, it has nothing, Sister Hildegard, to do with my geographical location. The issue becomes what happens when you're in the right place in the wrong headspace. You can still miss God. If you're in the right place, but in the wrong space. And then the other issue occurs when you're in the right space, but in the wrong location. So what happens when you try to take the old and put it with the new? You can't. Bible says, let me give you a Bible so don't nobody think I'm making it up. You cannot put Y'all know the book better than the preacher. I'm gonna be quiet. New wine in old wine skins will call for the wine skins to bust at the thread. So that means if you try to do that, you'll lose everything that you got new trying to hold on to something old. Moses, hey Joshua. Hold on, stop Joshua. Joshua, I need you to look at me. Joshua, look at me. Joshua, I know you love Moses. And I know you and Moses experienced some amazing things. I mean, y'all walked through Red Seas together. I mean, y'all had a cloud by day covering you, fire by night to keep you warm. Josh, I know y'all went through a lot. I mean, you saw shoes grow. In fact, Josh, you were one of the kids that the shoes grew on their feet. So I know how much you loved your pastor. I know how you love my servant. In fact, let me compliment you and say, man, you did an amazing job serving him. But Josh, hey Josh, I need you to wipe your eyes, man. The season is over. But we still got work to do. Moses, Josh is dead. So I need you to get up. Come on. It's going to be all right. I need you to get up. And I need you to lead these people. Because I still made a promise. Even though Moses ain't here. See, God's promises still continue after our predecessors stop. Now watch this. Josh, I'm not asking you to do this by yourself. But the same way I was with Moses. And it's important that God has this conversation with Joshua and not in front of everybody else. Because Joshua understands the relationship between God and Moses. Joshua, being Moses' assistant, understands the relationship between God and Moses more than the rest of the tribe does. Because they weren't there when God exposes God's self to Moses, but Joshua was. They weren't there. Joshua was probably an earshot away of the conversations Moses was having with God. And so now, Joshua, I need you to put on these new shoes. You've had the example of what to do and what not to do. I love Moses, but there's a reason why he doesn't make it to the promise. There's a reason why there's not a book of Moses. Moses had an assignment to lead into the promise. But Moses disobeyed God, which calls for him to get the funeral but not get the promise. But Josh, I'm going to be with you. Brian, I'm going to be with you. Chris, I'm going to be with you. Toriano, I'm going to be with you. Tyrell, I'm going to be with you. Rick, I'm going to be with you. Felicia, I'm going to be with you. Dawn, I'm going to be with you. Regina, I'm going to be with you. Tiffany, I'm going to be with you. 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 God is not a man that he would lie. So even at the bank of your Jordan, where everything that you have experienced in life is behind you, the grief of your leader, the one that had been leading you, is resting behind you. God says it's time to go forward. It's time to go. You've been the assistant long enough. You've been the assistant long enough. You've been number 2 long enough. God is calling you into some number 1 shoes. It's time to go. Don't get comfortable. I'll never forget when my Moses died. My Moses died right after I had a vision of my Moses dying. I didn't get a chance to grieve. I didn't get a chance to really cry because I was still working where I was. And the Lord dropped in my spirit, Moses is dead. And I said, God, that is just so insensitive. I love Moses. But then God said, no, you don't understand. It's not just Moses, but Moses, my servant, is dead. Like you loved him, but you'll never love him like I loved him. And I was like, well, God, I don't want to do this. God said, but I promised the people. But God, I'm not equipped to do this. He said, neither was Moses, but I promised the people. But God, I don't even know where to start. He said, neither did Moses, but I promised the people. And because I made a promise, I can't leave the people where they are. So I need a Moses. So since you were the closest thing to Moses, you see, association brings on assimilation. Y'all ain't gonna help me. That you've been around your Moses so long, and for whatever reason, God chose you. Like I have to remind people, I didn't choose myself. If we could be honest, the church didn't even choose me. But God chose me. And he chose me for whatever was ahead, not what was for behind. God will never choose you for what was behind. God has only selected you for what is ahead. And if you serve Moses well, you will be selected. I'm trying to let this go. I believe this is really helping somebody, though. God's selection of Joshua had nothing to do with Joshua, but everything to do with how Joshua served Moses. You see, we won't be Moses, but we don't want to be Joshua. You will never be Moses until you learn how to serve Moses. I don't got to serve him. He's just a man. No, he's God's man. In fact, God made him Moses and not you. So it ain't your time to serve. But when it's your time to serve, you being propelled to leadership will be because of how you serve the one that was ahead of you. Remember that promotion does not come from the east or the west, but promotion comes from God. That God has, and I'm only telling you what I've lived. Don, God has the final say. You are looking, I'll share this with you, Don, because I think right now we're on a similar journey. You are looking at someone that's not supposed to be standing here. That even in my call to pastorate, there was a whole lot of bureaucracy. That when I applied for the position originally after Dr. Manley died, there was so much stuff going on here at the Bethany Church. I got a rejection letter in 2013. But I kept serving. I went back to school. I got my second master's degree. While I was sitting in the classroom listening to the teacher, I was looking at my wife. Y'all ain't gonna help me in here. Multiple things can be true at the same time. I was listening to the teacher, but I was looking at my wife. Met my wife, fell in love, got married, got pregnant with our first child, and guess who came a-calling? Because what God has for you, if you continue to serve God and be faithful. Here's the thing, because we think we can serve God. You cannot serve God and not continue to be faithful to serve what God has called you. You cannot say you love God and don't like people. Because at the end of the day, these are God's people. So God's people, right? So being faithful to people is the evidence of love of God in your life. God, help me today. I'm trying to let this, y'all supposed to be gone to brunch by now. I'm trying to let y'all go. And so I continued to serve people in spite of and despite of how I was mistreated. And I was mistreated. I was abused. Not physically, because y'all already know how I get down. But verbally and mentally and emotionally, I was abused by pastors and leaders that looked at my gift and never took the time to minister to me. That's why I try not to mistreat any of our sons and daughters. That's why I have an open door policy. That's why I try to love on them, because I was abused. I was mistreated. I was ostracized. I was overlooked, made to feel insignificant and unprepared. And you know what I had to learn? That man's rejection is really God's protection. That God was literally protecting what he had put in me, so that incorruptible couldn't take on corruption. And so even though I wasn't selected, even though I wasn't called, even though I wasn't chosen by a whole lot of people, all you need is the favor of God on your life. And bro and sis, when God got his hand on you, they ain't got no choice but to invite you to the table. They ain't got no choice. And if they try to block it, you know what God will do? He'll build a whole nother table over here. He'll build another table. There's a whole lot of places my preaching and my preaching style has kept me out of. But you better believe it's all right. It's a whole lot of places that my preaching has let me into. So one of the things, I was having a conversation, and then I'm done standing all over the building. I promise I'm done. I was having a conversation with a gentleman, and he asked me what I thought about Joel Osteen. Y'all probably want to know what I said, don't you? He said, I don't hear Joel Osteen use the Bible. He just tells a bunch of stories. I said, that sounds like Jesus to me. I said, if you want to know my opinion of Joel Osteen, I said, I think about it like this. If God, in God's infinite wisdom, knew that the way humanity was going to get back to him was by him dividing himself into three parts: Father, Son, Holy Ghost. And from God's division of those three parts, we've had several divisions of Christianity: Baptist, Methodist, Episcopalian, AME Zion, Church of God in Christ, non-denomination. Maybe God understood that everybody won't gonna get it the same way. So he looked at me, he was like, man, what are you saying? I said, all I'm saying is this: Joel ain't my cup of tea. But based upon all his members, he's somebody's cup of tea. And I can argue with a whole lot of things, but the one thing you can't argue with is success. Men lie, women lie, numbers don't lie. And the Bible says, you shall know a tree. And I said all that to say I had to recognize I ain't everybody's cup of tea. But I'm somebody's cup of tea. And God will use me to reach the people I'm supposed to reach. That this word this morning wasn't for everybody, but it was for somebody. And if you share it, it might be for somebody in your life. You may be coasting through life right now, and this word was not for you. Listen, I get it. But at the end of the day, share it with somebody that you know is going through something, that it may help along the journey. And maybe, just maybe, it might be their cup of tea.
God bless you, and thank you for tuning in to the Bethany Experience. Child of God, maybe you have not accepted Jesus as your personal Savior. Listen, we want to connect you with Christ on today. Would you pray with me? Father, we pray now that you would come into our hearts. We recognize that we are sinners and have fallen short. We ask now that you would forgive us of every sin and Lord over our life. In Jesus' name. Maybe, child of God, you just need to reconnect and rededicate yourself. Maybe life has pulled you wayward. Pray this prayer with us today. Father, we ask now that we could reconnect, that we would continue now to walk with you on this journey. Thank you, God, for never leaving us nor forsaking us. In Jesus' name. And lastly, beloved, maybe you're looking for a church home. Some place where you can go and grow, some place where you can work and worship. We invite you to come and be a part of our family here at the Bethany Baptist Church. Now, listen, we are not a perfect church, but we do declare that when you join this church, you'll never walk alone again. Now, I know you're watching, so you're saying, how can I connect? Well, you can connect by simply calling 757-543-5887 or send us an email at connect@experiencebethany.com. You can log on to our website and fill out a new membership form, www.experiencebethany.com. www.experiencebethany.com. God bless you. Heaven smile upon you, and we'll see you in the morning. Bless you, and thank you for tuning in to the Bethany Experience. We are so grateful to be able to bring to you via television and virtual broadcast what we experience every Sunday. If you desire to support the ministry, there are 3 ways you can do it. First of all, you can mail your gifts to 2587 Campostella Road in the beautiful city of Chesapeake, 23324. Second way you can support the ministry is download the Givelify app. It is a way that you can give via technology. Find this place of worship and send your gifts that way. Last but not least, if you're in the South Norfolk community and you want to drop by the church, come on by, drop it in the mailbox, or our office hours are from 8 to 4, Monday through Thursday, as well as 9 to 12 on Sunday. Listen, God bless you, and we pray that God bless your seed 1,000-fold in Jesus' name.